But the highlight be the water. The highlight be the water. Water be so good. You say it like that. You say it like that, it sounds like you got you a new drink. Man, that water be so good, man. That water. That water be so good, man. Shut up. So Incremental Science 26 specifies particularly on the shadow self. And we don't understand, and I hope y'all like my little illustration. But majority of the time we don't understand. And I gave you a diagram. It might have been in incremental 17 or 15, something like that, where I was showing you how as above, so below, both energy sources, you know what I'm saying, connects through the ether like a snake, you know what I'm saying? This is where the wisdom comes from, but it connects so many different pretenses that are in this same body of energy. And I'm about to show you another one. So now, you understand that you pull in energies from the universe. Well, also, as your shadow self, it is also connected to every single force. So it's almost like your shadow self is not the physical version of you, but it's still a version of you that exists. It's almost like the watcher in a sense. Like it's like sitting back just watching you be real, be physical, be everything that life has to offer. And it's also tethered to everything that you think, all your thoughts. It's like a reflection. So I'm not saying that your shadow leaves your body and go run amok. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the shadow is a connection through the ether. It's a reality. You know what I'm saying? Light travels. So when the light hits you and it stops refracting at this last point, like how light travels through the universe and it particleizes here and makes a human. You know what I'm saying? Like through all the, the transmuting, how we refract light, literally. The reason why we're able to see things. After light hits you, what goes past you is your shadow. Nothing goes past the shadow. The shadow is it. That's where the light stops. Keep that in mind. That's where the light stops. So knowing this, you have a connection in between that and self. So if I was to give the shadow self the attributes of knowing everything about myself, but incapable to do anything, that's almost like the shadow self can actually watch you be a person. Watch you be a person and knows everything that you're going to do because it can only just stand still when the light is on. And I guess if I was to imagine, right, that only when it's nighttime or something like that, shadows get to run amok because there's no light around, right? You just, hey, I can detach for a little bit and haul behind. But think about that. Isn't that a fact? Isn't it like majority of the time during the day is when you get the senses that let you know when not to do stuff? At nighttime, you kind of just go with the flow. Don't let that trip over your head real quick. Everything is light. Everything is light. And we can't be specific on certain values, but divine allowed light to be. And before light, you couldn't see anything. You didn't even know creations was around because you couldn't see it. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna take from the story and place it where it's supposed to be. I created light. Okay, people like to put this in pretensions to the value of how humans were able to see. Well, no, light happens when you open your eyes. That's what the eye functions for. It's for refracting light. So without an eye socket, you could not open your eye. So the divine had to create a pretense that follows the value to receive that. You understand what I'm saying? And also the light, it speaks to a value of being awakened. So it doesn't just say the lights turn on. It speaks to the value of being awakened. So even when babies are born, they're asleep until you smack them on their behind. They're like, ah! You know what I'm saying? And then they come into life. It's like, you feel me? So the shadow is a connection to you. But ultimately, self, regular self, Do you notice your shadow, or do you only see the light? And that's the particular value. Like the shadow is light. We don't put no focus on it. But in fact, it's attached to you, but it's not quite you. It is you. It's attached to you by your lowest point, which is your feet. Your lowest chakra is attached to you. So naturally, you're gonna have something always trying to balance out that value, whether you see it or not, but you just don't embrace it. It is your reflection. It's the real reflection of you. It's the reflection that you're not checking on. So what does that speak? If I can see this happening, like it's something I don't have to touch that. Like I'm not touching light refracting through me and I can look back and say, well, hey, I have control of my shadow. There's nothing you can do about that. Only if the light is not shining does your shadow move. And if the light shines, you see the shadow. That comes with the creation of you. So with me knowing this, I have to think about levels of refraction because that is like the lowest level of refraction right there, right? The shadow is the last. So I'm a level of refraction. There has to be a light level above me and another light level above it and another light level above it till it gets to where its source is. That's important. That's very important. And I'm thinking, just theorizing that because we don't pay much attention to our shadow, it has to be the contrastal value that the higher self pays more attention to us because we're not quite a shadow. You see what I'm saying? We're like a reflection of the higher version of what, and the shadow is darker. You see what I'm saying? Like it's like you block the light on each level. So he's blocking light on that level to form a higher version of me. And there's something on his, a higher version of him that's blocking light right there to form a higher version of that individual. I'm the higher version of my shadow. We're light. So this is why you have to focus on everything that your shadow probably would pick up that you wouldn't see. Because if your shadow knows it, that means you ain't still enough. See, that's why when you go through your life, you hit your toe on the corner of that bed. I done said this a million and one times in my bills. You hit the toe on the corner of the bed, you ain't paying attention. You know what I'm saying? You done tripped down something, you done stepped on something, you ain't paying attention. That's just your shadow self, like, yo, you ain't focusing on us. It becomes the shadow value because the more you don't pay attention to particular values of yourself, they fall into the same circumference as a shadow. So this is why the determined self came up, shadow self, because these are terms you choose not to look at in yourself. You'd rather point the finger and say XYZ about the world instead of looking at you and what you do. It ain't about what nobody else in the world do. What about you? It's not a person on the planet that can make you do something. You act the way you act because it's you. Not because somebody make you that way. What's in you is in you. And no matter what function come at you, it's going to come out of you. That's the makeup of you. Nobody can make any of this happen. You respond in the way that you are. This is reality. So understanding that and knowing that, situations start to get deep. You create a shadow self. Your shadow self is created through the refractions of your light that you leave behind. What is the light? The light is the information that's coming from the universe. You get this light from the universe that allows you to think in certain ways. So some of these thoughts you think about, some of these thoughts you put to the side and you don't put focus on, which becomes a shadow thought. These shadow thoughts that you're putting to the side is building a body. Building a body called the shadow self. And your shadow self is watching you, big head. It's watching you sit on your head. That's your shadow self doing, is watching you. It's like, look at him. He don't never pay attention to, he ain't still enough to pay attention to this. He always moving, always all around. He can't stay still for a minute. I see everything else. I see everything you missing. I see what you should have did with XYZ. I see why you didn't do this. Because he's attached to you. Don't make decisions on his own. You make decisions. And in shadow self, catch everything you don't catch. Just a piece of understanding. You got to be mindful of you. You can't keep saying that the world is involved. No, your energy is a part of you. So your energy you send it out, and it comes back. It circles. This is the whole cycle of understanding you. You understand what I'm saying? The energy is cycles. This is the whole pretense of you understanding you. Just got to be mindful and know that It's not about the surroundings. It's about how you receive every piece of energy that's coming to you. Most people are blocked off from most people are blocked off from how the universe gives them the information. It's just like a car receiver. Your receiver can your car radio can only pick up the station that you dial into. So when you dial into that particular station, it gets that radio wave frequency, and you particularly can hear a sound. You can dial into other frequencies that have no connection to them, and you only hear white noise. This is what we're doing as people. We are beacons. If you leave a person with nobody around and just leave him by himself, he gonna learn stuff without nobody teaching him. He gonna learn everything about the environment around him. And then he's gonna start learning more to that, because also the same level of information is connected into the life, the trees and so forth and on. It's still connected into that life. So he's gonna learn about their connection to the universe just by being around them. It's radio waves, man. It's always vibes, because you already know the vibes. Naga.